Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Live and Give Show. My name is Hua Win alongside my lover, Dr. Jaime Gonzalez. So
Hello.
today's topic, one of my favorites, creating a more passionate relationship. Tune in, guys.
Welcome to the Live and Give Show with Dr. Jaime Gonzalez and Dr. Hua Win. Join us as we share our experiences and those of other experts in their fields who've discovered financial security while creating a pathway towards giving back to others.
All right. Are you guys excited about this one? I know my
I am.
lover is.
We'll see. We'll see in a little bit.
So today's topic, I think, is really, really important. We're going to put a little bit more focus into relationships, whether it's your, husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend. But I think that core relationship is so critical to discuss. And, through time, especially people who've been married for a long time and who have children, and, it's not uncommon to get just complacent and comfortable and not on the relationship and keep it as spicy and intimate as when you were first dating, right? And so maybe we'll share some tips of things that, through our own journey. And as we see other couples who are still very passionate and much older and what they've done also, in addition to the things we're doing to hopefully help with your own journey as well.
We've been together, or we've known each other for what, 19 years?
We've been together for 19 years.
Yeah. So, and we've known each other for probably 20, 21 years, right? So, and after 19 years, you have to pull all the tricks out of your bag and, start trying out stuff, let's see if it sticks or not, so, but I think, as a man, you think, okay, well, it's my responsibility to kind of keep it spicy and things like that, right? So I think initially, for probably the first 15 years or so, I think I think I was res- I was thinking, okay, well, it's just me kind of keeping it spicy, I guess. Um, but I think as we grew together, I think it becomes more of a partner as a unit type of thing, right? So I think, yeah, and again, because I've changed, in my 20s and my 30s, and now it's like, yeah, well, it's a partnership. Let's see what you like, even though I might not like it as much. But if you really, really enjoy it or love it, I think, I'm open to those ideas or to doing something that you enjoy, right?
Right.
So, but it's not easy.
No, not at all.
It's a little bit on the tough side.
Yeah, and we've
After
we've gone through our challenges too, through our own journey, but through those challenges, and we've been able to get to know one another on a deeper level, and then grow and become even stronger, right? But I
Mhm.
think getting to the hurdle of overcoming when you hit a point where, okay, what do we do now, right? To spruce it up, and even if we're we feel like, okay, we've got everything we want, we're moving along, we're growing, but how can we make our inner relationship even more passionate? One of the
Mhm.
things that I think doesn't get talked about enough, and it's probably a stigma, just like there's a stigma about talking about money. There's probably a stigma about talking about intimacy and sex, right? And that is something that I think is a lot of challenge with relationships. And from a woman's stand of view and from a man's stand of view, I think, we might stir up a pot a little bit, but I think why not lay it all out right today? Why not lay out, we like to go against the grain a little bit. So let's just talk and be real about it, right? Because the point of this show is really to talk about pros, wins, but also cons and challenges of what we've learned through our journey, right? And not sugarcoat that it's all fine and dandy. And then I think a man's point of view or your point of view may be very different than a woman's or my point of view, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that understanding, getting to better understand what it is that you really want and need and what it is that I really want and need is so critical in any relationship,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what's working and what's not, because the unspoken and holding it and letting that stack will eat you alive.
Mm-hmm.
And it will create so much emotional and mental turmoil. But if we could address it on the front end earlier, then that would be better for your relationship, because most of the time when couples break up, it's been stacked for many, many, many years. And it's hit a point where they feel like there's no
Or not
more
many,
resolution.
not a lot of the times. I mean, it can be many days, it can be many months, but because some people, break up after 3 months or 4 months, so for some people it can be, a couple of weeks, and they reach a boiling point, and it doesn't have to be years and years.
That's true.
So
That's true.
it's some people might have a limit or a shorter fuse, just to kind of use that phrase, but I think understanding one another initially, what you want, what I want, laid out on the table and say, hey, look, this is what I'm looking for, and just let the other person know, right? So because you give them a chance, right? If you don't let them know, you are not giving them a chance at all.
That's true.
Right. So it's that's unfair for the partner that they go in there blindfolded into the relationship on what you like as for passion, and whenever you don't let them know, they're at a disadvantage day one.
That's right.
Right. So, and I'm not saying, going into a relationship, start talking about it day one after you meet the person,
Right.
but, after however long it would be, a few weeks or a couple months of
But
going out.
you state something that's really important is the communication aspect, So I think this episode will break it up to streamline the conversation, because this could go forever, right? Let's streamline and break it up into sections. And I think communication is probably one of the top ones, right? From the very get-go, from the beginning, during, the ways of communication. And then we'll also go into how to spice it up and make it more fun, right? The intentionality of making that relationship and making that a priority.
Mm-hmm.
Third component after intentionality and fun is we want to talk about adversity. How do we manage emotions and triggers, right? Each person has their own, everybody has their own baggage when they come into a relationship, right? And how do we manage that component of emotions and triggers throughout the course of a relationship? So I think that would be a great third component of our topic today. And then to end it all, what are some, daily things, weekly things, monthly things, yearly things that we do on a high level to build that relationship, and then to incorporate not just us as a unit, individually, then as a unit, and then how we bring that out to our workplace, and how do we do that to bring out to business and the philanthropy and everything else outside. But the micro system, kind of the inner circle, how we strengthen that first and foremost before we try to go and conquer the world. So does that sound okay with you to streamline it that way?
Just remind me on what we're talking about.
So let's start with communication. What is it do you want? What do you want in a relationship, and what do you want in your significant other? You know, and I think having, I joked in the previous episodes about manifesting what I want in my significant other, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's super important. But also, once you have this person, it's like, I know I have this person that I so wanted, but how do I communicate the things that I am so, one of my challenges is my mode of communication, because I naturally like to suppress my emotions. Not that I like to, just naturally by habit, innately, subconsciously and unconsciously, that's just always what I've done growing up, right?
Mhm.
So being able to improve on my communication, to letting you know what it is that I want or I need, what's working well and what's not. So one of the things we do for communication is, we've written down things that, we really like about one another, and then things that I wish could be improved a bit, right?
Mhm.
And we write it out, and then exchange it to one another.
Mhm.
And knowing and understanding that, we can't get upset with one another. This is just truly how I feel. This is just truly how he feels. So that's one way of communication. If you're not comfortable just verbally saying it, having a written form of communication, that's one way. What's another way?
No, I think just to kind of hit that a little bit more, um, because once you write it down, the emotions are not as intense whenever you say it to someone, right? So that's just a soft way of sharing your emotions for the other person, especially if you don't really share your emotions a lot, right? So writing it down on paper, I think it's better than probably texting back and forth because you have it all there, right? For me, whenever I'm texting, say if you share your emotion and then I'm going to respond to that, I still have a lot of emotion tied up into it, right? So if you write the whole thing, like for example, we wrote a whole page full of
Yeah.
what we like about each other and what we think we can improve, right? So um, but that way I was reading it, completely, so you can share your full emotion without me rebuttaling, without me interrupting, without me getting, defensive. So, and then we were not in the same room, right? So, or we're not in the same room whenever we do this. So there is nothing but you're taking it in, right?
Correct.
So, in like you said earlier, letting the other person know, hey, this is just a sharing. There's no ill intentions by doing this. So we just want to learn more from one another, and let's see what we can improve on, on myself and on yourself, on your side. So I think starting that way, I think is so much better than either texting or having a phone conversation or one-on-one face-to-face, right? So that's just a softer way of letting it out, right?
Mhm.
So I think I really like that. I think for other adults that we've spoken to, that we kind of give advice to, that usually tends to work a little bit more
Right.
versus just one-on-one. Um, so I like that. I think communication, if there is an argument, um, texting, I think it's a good way of doing that, right? Or if there's a disagreement, or if there's something that you can improve on at that point in time, right? So
Mhm.
because the letter, whenever we write everything down, we don't do it on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. This is just kind of summarizing, for a few months or a year or 6 months.
Mhm.
So but texting, I think that's another good way of just at the moment, just kind of letting the other person know, hey, I really, was looking forward to this. but it didn't happen. This is where I'm coming from. So I think texting route, and we do that a lot too.
Yeah.
So if we do have a disagreement, we're not there, yelling at one another or going back and forth or anything like that. So I do like that. And also we share our emotions, but not every day, right?
Mhm.
So some people can, which is great. But we don't really share our emotions on a daily basis unless it's just wins and challenges at the end of the day.
We don't verbally maybe say it or share it every single day out loud, but I think what we do really well, that is still another form of communication, is the physical communication, body language, and hugging one another, right?
Mhm.
Having snuggle time, hugging one another, kissing one another, saying I love you before we go to bed. I mean, those are all modes of communication,
Mhm.
right? And knowing someone's love language, knowing your own love language, and knowing your partner's love language is also very important,
Mhm.
right? My
Like
love
touch,
yeah.
for me, it's like touch. So once we're sitting next to one another, I either am touching your hand, touching your leg, I'm grabbing you, on your back, or, giving you a little massage or something like that.
Or hitting my butt. No, just kidding.
Yeah. No, that's and with the Hispanic culture, we do that a lot. I noticed that other cultures, of course, everyone's different. But when Hispanic culture, we do that quite often, and we're uh, very touchy and feely, and at first you weren't like that.
Yeah.
Right. So, and little by little, I mean, that's, we got more comfortable with one
Mhm.
another. Right. So, and it didn't take too long for you to,
No.
feel
But that's
comfortable with
important
that.
for me. My love language is physical touch and words of affirmation, you
Mhm.
know.
But that's changed.
But I've always craved it, right? I
Mhm.
wasn't comfortable with it because I didn't have it, but it was something I wanted,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know. Um
We call each other for, I don't know, past 15, 16 years, lover, for affection, right? So I don't know if you want to share a story about someone that just recently
we
reached out
shared
to
it
you.
on before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so that was a cool way of, having affection to one another. Whenever, we're at the grocery store, and then you're probably 20, 30 feet away, and I'm calling you lover. It's like people turn around like, who would call each other lover? Because for 16 years, I hadn't heard anyone else call the other person lover. Maybe in a movie or something like that, but not consistently, right? And I think just kind of, whenever you hear that, it's like, oh wow, that's possible. I feel comfortable with it. You feel comfortable with it. All our friends, feel comfortable with it.
My friends
We
are calling him lover now.
it's yeah. I mean, it's just affection, right? So, and that's what people crave a lot of the times, right? So, I mean, yeah, it's just all in good fun, and then some other people might start calling each other lovers, at
Right.
home, and then they can take it outside, because it is kind of weird, so
It's not weird.
no,
I
no, no.
love it.
For other people, I'm not saying for us,
Yeah.
but because we've been, calling each other lover for a long time. But
No, it catches people off guard. They're like, wait, are you guys married? And you calling him lover? I'm like, yes.
yeah, so just little things like that, and holding your hand, and and when Athena's there, holding her hand as well. So because little kids crave that as well, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah. And she sees that, right? And it's a gift to your kids when they see their parents are in love, right?
mhm.
And just even if it wasn't verbal, that is a form of communication. When even the simple things of just walking, walking along, and we're just holding hands, and just a hug, or just gentle things, or compliments. I think that's still very important. Like, that falls in the words of affirmation, right? Complimenting, acknowledging your partner. Difference, right? We do it when we're dating. So we want to be intentional about making sure we continue that. And those positive words are really important. Now, negative words are the same way, right? Sometimes if we get upset, and words like "you always" or "you never," right? Those are really negative words that I have fallen guilty of, right? And I have to consciously work on knowing that, hey, this very incident does not mean it's always this way, or it's never this way, because immediately the receiving person, when you hear always or never, it's a trigger too, right? It's like, what do you mean always? It was just this time, right? Or it's been a few times, but it's not always this way, right? So words are very powerful in a good way, and also very powerful in a very negative way, because those words can replay in your significant other's mind over and over, right? And so let's move on from communication. And that's an ongoing process that has to be worked upon, right? And again, through self-development, as your own journey improves, your communication to yourself and your communication to other people improves too, right?
I want to challenge the people that listen to, the next time you see your wife or your husband, girlfriend, boyfriend, your partner, call them lover, and see the reaction that you'll get. And let's see if they're comfortable with it, and maybe even just talk about it, right? So, hey, what if we start calling each other lover, here at home? Would that be okay? And you just start off, every once a day, or at home, right? So, or in the bedroom, right? And then that this will kind of progress from there,
All right.
right? So, and that's the homework. That's the homework for today.
we're wanting to create more lovers in the world. Okay, so relationships, let's not kid around. It's work, right? There is definitely work involved. And it is not all easy, but it's very fulfilling. It's brings a lot of happiness and joy. But there are challenges, just like anything that's worth it. It's work involved. And if you don't focus your energy on building a strong, passionate core relationship, it's guaranteed to fail.
Well, it might not fail, but you can live miserable for the rest of your life. Rest of your life, and some people might not think that's failing.
Why would you want to live together just for the sake of being together? We cannot buy time back, right? We cannot. All of us cannot buy time. As we're sitting here talking, time is ticking away. Why would you want to take time and be in a relationship that brings you misery, right? Why would we want to not build upon that? Even if you're in a position where you're in a challenging marriage or challenging relationship, either you hone in, focus your energy to rebuild it if there's potential to really rebuild and strengthen that relationship and make that a priority, or you exit. Because I see too many people, for the sake of whatever it is, living in misery and not being happy, right? But is a relationship worth, especially if you're married with children, is it worth fighting for? If there's way, but if you can do it on the front end instead of the back end, where things are so far off that it's hard to it's gone too far apart, right? So what is our goal? Our goal is to be at the front end or even in the midst of it, to see if there's ways that we can be more intentional about the relationship, right?
Mhm.
And so you have one tip for intentional relationship building that's worked for us?
Intentional relationship building.
Yeah, things that we've done that you think have done well for us to keep chugging along and, still like each other. Not just love each other, but really like each other and want to be spending time with each other.
No, I think we might have mentioned it earlier. It's you got to be open to the other person's likes and dislikes, right? So because you love playing poker, right? Love playing poker any time of day or night. We can be on a trip, on vacation. We can, and for me, poker, I like to play poker, but I'm not very passionate about poker like you are, but I still play, right? So I still play because it's fun and we get to bet and stuff like that. But I think just being open to what you like a lot of the times, so you like playing, you like going bowling and things like that. So yeah, I like bowling, but I'm not passionate about bowling, right? I'm passionate about, maybe playing baseball, playing football, playing basketball, frisbee, things like that. That requires a lot more action, right? A lot more running and intense, paying quite a bit more attention, a lot more competitive, physically competitive, and you like the strategy, the games, the mindset. But I'm still open to
Right.
learning and playing and stuff like that. So I think just being open to learning, I think that's key.
And that is key, because what is your partner's other hobbies and likes, and what fires them up, right? Because I think that's super important, right?
Mhm.
Just like you are super into sports, and I started attending a lot of the sports and learning and playing and getting more active with you and Athena, knowing that that's what lights you up. And so
Mhm.
part of what lights me up is seeing you get lit up, right? And
Mhm.
seeing you get excited, and that brings me joy,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so that's important in a relationship. It's not just a take, it's a give, right? And it's a, what can we do together that we enjoy,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And the two things we really do thoroughly enjoy from the get-go is traveling and trying different cuisines in different countries, and being able to share that with Athena at a very young age. I think for a person who's 9 years old, but because she's traveled to so many different countries, has seen different cultures, experienced different things in life, I think those life experiences and memories that we're creating together is something that's very intentional in building a meaningful relationship and a meaningful purpose, right?
Mhm.
And that's a big thing is our values and our mission, our long-term life mission is in alignment. And I think that's another important component of intentional relationship building is not just the now, but is the long-term vision at the end of the road in a similar path.
Mhm.
Because imagine if you didn't want kids and I want kids. I wanted to serve and you didn't. I wanted to travel and you didn't. I want to be a family person and take care of our parents and you didn't. I mean, those are conversations we discussed on a very front end,
Mhm.
right? Our value system, our faith, our family, our, even career paths and things that, just laying it all out there, right? Even financial things,
And
right?
yeah, and I think that's probably, if I were to say that might be a mistake for some relationships, it's they're just physically attracted to one another and not mentally attracted to one another, right? So, because if you don't talk about this early on, what your values are, what you stand for, what you really, really love to do and what your passion is and what your dreams are and what your goals and what your moonshots and all this other stuff, then the physical part, it's going to probably fade away, in a few years, or maybe longer. And then what happens, right? It's like, oh my gosh, we're stuck with one another. And I disagree with everything that she says and what her values are, or she doesn't, or he doesn't have any values. And, it's like, oh my gosh, I am stuck, so, but no, and everyone, makes mistakes, but, it's what you stand for. What do you keep your word, right? Whenever you say something, are you keeping your word? I mean, is that worth more than, than anything, right? So,
Mhm.
but and I think, early on is important. And then, but if you don't do it early on, it's again, you have to give the other person a chance,
Yeah.
because if you don't tell them anything, they're going blindly with this relationship, right? So,
Mhm.
and just you have to find other ways to getting stimulated, just besides the physical
Right.
appearance and intimacy and passion and things like that. So, and I think it's so much better once you're, mentally attracted to one another. I think, like for us, for example, the passion is even better. We can go on a much deeper level, physically and emotionally and passionately, um, if we understand, the mental side of things.
Right. And I think both are important, obviously, the mental and having a being able to truly express and have a good conversation with one another and have deeper, more meaningful conversations. But it is also important that, there is chemistry. Obviously, there has to be chemistry for a relationship to initially when you're dating. And then as you continue your relationship, it's easy to fall out when you're no longer physically attracted to one another, whether it's physically or mentally attracted to one another. So I think each person, it is important that, you have to maintain. That's why your inner self journey is important, because if you fall off the wagon and stray off too far, and um, your partner loses attraction to you, then that can be a problem too, right?
Hmm.
And so I think those are important things. And those are hard discussions to be had, especially for a woman whose body changes tremendously after having children. Libido changes tremendously after having children, right? And so those are vulnerable conversations and inner feelings and emotions that a lot of women, especially mothers, have to go through, right? But can it be re-stimulated? Are there strategies and other ways? Absolutely. But if you don't express it and explore it, how can you bring that spice back to life, right?
Hmm.
And that it's okay that those things happen, but they need to be addressed, because if you try to just hide it under the rug and just keep going, not even knowing how much pain and torture that is for your significant other who does love you so much, but their needs are not being fulfilled either, right? And so those are hard conversations to be had, but those do need to be addressed in relationships, right?
Yeah, and if we can talk a little bit, maybe of kind of rekindling or having the urge or the passion, because health has a lot to do with it, right? So if we're not healthy, we're not in good shape, um, then the passion more than likely is not going to be there, right? So, or it's not going to be optimal,
Right.
right? So if you're, we see a lot of patients that are like diabetic, hypertensive, that are not in very good shape, and they have these other, secondary diseases because of those two main diseases. And the last thing, probably from what they tell me on their mind, is like they don't want to be active. They don't want to, their marriage is not doing well. And we're all almost like counselors there at the office, So, but yeah, a lot of it has to do with like blood flow, right? So I just want to say it. So it's like someone that's diabetic or hypertensive, that leads to other diseases. I mean, the blood flow to all your organs and to your, sexually sexual organs, I mean, it's not going to be there, So it's like you have to work through that. And then if you're, going to the clinic, like 60% of the office visits nowadays is because of mental health. If your mental health is not good, I mean, do you think you might want to, make out? I mean, probably not, right?
Mhm.
So, kind of working on that on top of someone's, physical health, that's going to be another hurdle, right? And then for men and women, if you're in your 30s or 40s and then your hormones are not in check, if you're, especially for men, if your testosterone's not that great because you're a little bit overweight or because of stress or because of lack of sleep and your testosterone is going down quite a bit, I mean, you're probably not going to want to be intimate with your wife. Same thing with the ladies, right? So if their testosterone is a little bit too low, or their hormones are too low, yeah, they're probably not going to, want to, be intimate, right? So, but a lot of it is due to health, right? And then that leads to other issues and other problems and arguing, and then marriages fail and things like that. So you have to focus on the health piece, right? So, and if that's good, you have a better chance.
Right. I think that's number one, when we talk about health, right? And health in so many forms, because one form affects the other form, right? The physical health, many of us fall prey into a lot of stress induced from so many different external factors. But managing that stress internally, and working on the physical movement, and being able to just, because that directly impacts your mental and emotional and even your physiologically, your hormones. For a lot of women over 40, like myself, when I hit 40 something, that's when my hormones were the first time in my life that started going off balance. And I truly believe, were stress induced things, right? And so being able to work on the inner journey, because when you are in a mental and emotional state where it's hard for you to just even get out of bed, much less go work out,
Mm-hmm.
right? It is physically hard for you to just roll out of bed to go take a shower, much less get anything productive done. That's a productive day if I got out of bed sometimes, right? I was in that low of a point multiple times through my 40s and my journey where I felt like, I don't know if I can roll out of bed today and take a shower, much less roll out of bed to do anything else, because your mind is occupied with God knows what, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so your physical well-being, gets impacted, which means your mental well-being gets impacted, which means your emotional well-being gets impacted. And then you're in this circle of like, how do I get out? How do I get out of this space? I want to change, but how do I change? Because trust me, like you said, when you're in that state of mind, being intimate or anything is the last thing on your mind,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so people who may be watching, who may be in a similar position, like, okay, great, but I'm in the circuit, like that circuit you're talking about, Hua, where it's hard for me to get out of bed right now. It's hard for me to get motivated to want to do anything. All right. And so, I physically had to, it's almost like you force yourself to have to get out of bed and pick up the phone or text somebody else, right? To just want to be able to help that one other person. And it was a way to kind of help me was to physically change my environment. I didn't care what I had on, how I looked or whatever. I literally needed to stroll out and get out of my bed and go outside, go to another room, go to an office, go meet somebody, do anything to get myself physically out of the environment that I was in. Right. And then if I could speak to somebody else, have nothing to do with my emotions, but just speak about something else in a way that I knew that I could leverage whatever I knew to help that person at the given moment, that immediately made me feel better. Right. And then from there, I would, start listening to, like talked about, meditation was hard for me, but I would still turn it on. I would turn on YouTube every single day, even if I felt absolutely horrible in bed, didn't want to roll out of bed. I turn on Les Brown. I turn on Jim Rohn. I turn on Tony Robbins, and I would just listen to them, whether I was actively listening or not really actively listening, it was on. Right. And I would take on but even if you don't think you're actively listening, your subconscious mind is listening. And I absorb it. I just know that I just got to turn that sucker on. Now I listen to a lot of guided meditation in the morning, at night, different frequencies and energy. That has helped a lot too, right? But those are things that, especially in my darkest moments, those are things that have helped me. Taking a shower, just getting in there and just showering, warm and then cold. That is a cleansing that just kind of opens me up a bit, right? Journaling is something that is really helpful to kind of get me out of the rut. And then going back to some of my journals and reading things, especially in moments where I've accomplished a lot of things, and realizing I've been here before and I've gotten out, right? And it's, we don't want to, prayer is something I subconsciously always pray, right? And I don't wait till just my moments of need, but in my moments of despair, obviously I pray even harder, right? But even on my great days, my absolute great days, every day, I pray subconsciously within myself, and am very grateful, right? But during those dark times, those practices of gratitude, like even if it's one thing today, like if everything is falling apart for me and I feel like I failed at everything and I feel horrible about myself this day, what is the one thing that I'm proud of? What is the one thing that can keep me going, right? And those are things that I encourage you to stack, right? Oh, I did this today. I'm proud of myself for doing that today. I did this today. Okay, I'm really proud. Those little things that we take for granted. I woke up and I'm breathing today. My heart is beating, just putting my hand physically on my heart and doing some slow breathing, that really relaxes me and gets me out of that rut, And those are strategies that I encourage if you're having moments of despair, of anxiety, of stress, and we all have moments of it, right? Those are some techniques that can get you out of it. And how does that impact your relationship? Big time. Can you imagine if you're spiraling downward and dying inside, and your partner has no idea how to help you, right? And how to get yourself out of that, because that's, so intimacy definitely falls apart, which is the third topic we want to talk about anyway, right? Spiraling into those modes is, it makes it, you just want to be by yourself. It's hard for you to even interact with other people, much less, having intimacy in a relationship to spice things up, right? So those are important things. And when we're dealing with, when we talk about retreats, energy, meditation, physical movement, exercise, eating right, eating healthy, nutrition, those are all the core things. Everything stems from you, the inner side, right? Everything that's falling apart on me was on me. It was because of habits I've incorporated that led me to that moment, right? But instead of blaming myself, and I know that these are the consequences I suffer today because of my actions from yesterday, right? It's not that I don't know, right? It's not that most people don't know, right? But it's a consistent little things, and you can't punish yourself forever for not following through, because it's a daily thing that we have to work on. It's a daily thing you have to work on. It's a daily thing I have to work on. Right.
Mhm.
And it comes easier for some and others. If you're very health conscious, it comes pretty naturally. And you have no idea what the next person is going through because you're like, how can it be so hard? It's common sense. You do A, you get B, this leads to C. But it's not like if everything was that easy, we wouldn't live in the world we live in today. Right?
It's very difficult to be happy and to be at peace. You have to work at it, right? It's much easier for the other unhappiness in not being at peace. So creating those habits, stacking them, like you were saying earlier, I mean, that's the only way to do it. So it's like you got to spend some time and work on yourself. So
Every day. Daily.
yeah, if you don't, I mean, it won't work out so well. It just takes a lot. It takes a lot, for a relationship to work. It takes a lot, especially nowadays.
I mean, most people don't even know themselves. How can they even get to know another person deeply? Right?
But they know Facebook real good. They know Instagram real good. They know how to maneuver through that really well. So it's like if people would work as hard as they do on their social media on themselves, it'll be so much better. So it's no, and so let's talk about some of the things that we do, right? So we can let other people, my favorite thing that we do on a daily basis now, it's the 20-minute massage each night, like
alternating.
So that's daily. And if you're tired, too bad. You're giving me a massage. If I'm tired, same thing. It's like, and that helps one another. If you've had a rough day and you get a massage, it's going to be a little bit better, after that. Right. So we turn on, it's not in the dark, it's with a red light. So I turn on the red light maybe 45 minutes before we're going to bed. And that removes all the, blue light from, stimulating your sleep and not being able to sleep as well. That relaxes you. It's nice and cold in the room. But that helps. Not say if I'm given the massage, I'm very happy that you're going to feel great after that. And if because massages is a lot of touch and feel, and it's like a whole body massage, right? It's
and
not
setting
just
the mood, right? It's setting the mood.
Yeah, it's not just your shoulders, right? So it's like, from head to toe, right? But that usually leads, 99.999% of the time to, what at least one of the partner wants, right? So that passion, right? So,
and making love to one another is something that, I think it is very important. Intimacy of all the different relationships you have, that is very sacred. To make love to one another and to keep that going, especially after 19 years of being together, right? And not just going through the motions, but actually enjoying it, right?
Mhm.
And setting the mood is very important, because if it's like, well, if you plan it, but then you structure it and you feel like it's a task or another duty or a thing you must do, then it takes the joy out of that intimacy, right?
Mhm.
But having, he goes in and he does his nighttime routine. He meditates, he showers at night, he does his red light therapy, his breathing. I mean, he has his whole nightly regimen. And I started doing I listened to just guided meditation in the evening to get myself relaxed and in a good state. And I'll do my deep breathing, knowing that either I will get a massage. We know it's like we alternate. So if last night I gave him a massage, I know that tonight I'm getting a massage, right? And then, that always sets the mood and it relaxes us. And, whatever day, whether it's a stressful day or it's a happy day or whatever it is, I mean, that's something that we can always look forward to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that we've incorporated that we've really both enjoyed, right? Date nights, if we do something, whether I do something I enjoy or he wants to do something, or we go out to eat and try different things, or even if it's at home and we don't physically go to a restaurant or something, I think family time and eating together is really important for us to have that time as a family, regardless of what's going on, to have a proper cooked dinner at home and to talk to one another and not have our phones, and just to have an actual conversation and eat together with Athena is super important for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those are things these are all things that set the mood, right? When you're talking about intimacy. And I think for especially, maybe I'm biased, but for women, maybe it may be a little bit harder to kind of set that mood and tone, right? For us to be really like, okay, but massages always work, right? I love massages, but maybe not every woman likes a massage, or maybe not every man likes a massage. So find what your significant other enjoys to get them into the mood, right? And it's important to enjoy that process, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And if they're physical things, especially hormonal things for women, especially 40s and 50s, 60s, even, right? Different hormones get impacted, which can definitely impact libido, right? And so those are things that, are there holistic ways to rebalance hormone? Absolutely. Just like, with thyroid and my estrogen and all those different things that I wanted to see, what can I do holistically to rebalance some of those hormones and see how my mood is. And those have helped. And I'm not to say that I'm against medication if necessary, but if there are lifestyle things and nutritional things and supplements that you can take to get the same goal without side effects and dependency, would I rather choose that first? Absolutely, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it is a work in progress, and I know when my numbers are off. I don't even have to physically go to the lab to know when they're off, right? But those, because immediately, not only your physical state, but when my mental state gets impacted, I know my hormones are off, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are important, but we have a lot of fun, right? It's important that, Athena has her room upstairs, right? She doesn't sleep with us. She's always slept in her own room, and probably for a short period of time when I had a little bit of mom guilt and she was growing so fast, I started sleeping with her. And I was like, man, we only have one child and she's growing way too fast. And I want to spend as much time as I can with her. And I started it was a dependency on me. I kind of wanted to just snuggle with her and sleep with her, right? But that started impacting our time together, right?
Not good.
He's like, not good, right? But it was an emotional thing for me. It was something that I, as a mom, especially because I was traveling a lot for work and things like that, and I wanted to, I said I can never regain that time back with my daughter, and so I wanted to sleep with her, right? And then one night led to 2 nights, led to 3 nights, led to many nights, right? And then I kind of left Jaime on the side for a while, and that really impacted him negatively. And I didn't realize how much it impacted him, right? Because he felt like that I didn't want him or something, right? And that was the last thing on my mind, right? I just thought we were happy and dandy. We're happy. We're traveling. Everything is joyful. Like I honestly and genuinely was happy, right? Had no clue anything was wrong because for me, I really didn't need that physical intimacy, making love per se. I mean, we still hug, we still kiss, we still hold hands, and we still have all the other forms of intimacy per se. But that was something that was missing, but that was super important, right? That was missing. And then in my head, I was like, everything's fine and dandy. And in your head, it was like, no, it's not. But you never addressed it until it stacked and stacked and stacked, right? And then when you did address it, I was like, yes, but it's kind of like you hear it. You're like, no, I did tell you. But I didn't think it was such a big issue, right? Until you normally don't ever express negative emotions. And when I really saw it impact you, I'm like, okay, what really happened, right?
Mhm.
And that was a root issue, right? And I neglected on my part because I'm like, I thought everything was fine. Like I don't physically really need it per se to feel like that everything is whole and dandy. But now that we're getting it and it's been frequent and consistent, and that's how our relationship's always been. That's been, that's been a big part of our relationship, and we thoroughly enjoy it. But again, I was probably going through my hormones being off balance and libido being off. And that was the last thing I really was thinking about, right?
Mhm.
And so that needed to be addressed. And Lord and behold, when I got all my panels, and I'm like, yeah, no wonder I'm not in the mood, right?
Yeah, I think that was like during COVID, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and kind of looking back, it's like, okay, well, there was a lot going on and very stressful. Have, our businesses, to worry about. And, whenever you explained to me the mom guilt and things like that, I was like, okay, well, okay, I can respect that, so, but yeah, and that's why communication is important, right? So, and I didn't communicate it, like, I don't know how long it was, but I probably should have said something the first week or second week or whenever, so because it kept on stacking, and I was like,
But tell the audience exactly what it made you feel like, unwanted, unloved, or what did the underlying root issue, why did it bother you so much?
yeah, it's the unwanted feeling, right? So it's like, okay, I'm kind of almost getting replaced, right? So with my daughter. But yeah, I mean and I think that's just for guys, right? It's like you want to feel appreciated. I think that's number one for me. I don't know if for all the guys, but for me, I want to feel appreciated whenever I come home, right? And uh, if my love language is touch, yeah, I want to be hugged and touched and kissed and booty slapped and and more intimate, right? So, in some people might not be that way, but for me, I mean, that's what I needed, and so that made me feel unappreciated, unwanted, and unloved, right? So, but it's I understand, what happened, and it was tough for a lot of people during COVID, at the
Mhm.
beginning of COVID. So a lot of stress, which leads to a lot of anxiety or, a lot of hormone changes and a lot of bad eating. And so all this is stacking against everyone,
Mhm.
right? So you can't just go through a period like that and be perfectly fine for most people,
A
right?
lot of relationships broke up during COVID, right?
Yeah. So, and it's just,
It's just
you know,
stacking and stacking. In addition to
part of,
our everyday,
mhm,
COVID, I think, was an extra stressful period for a lot of people, right?
mhm,
And even times like now, which is tough for a lot of people, right? And because you stack on that, you stack on financial stress, you stack on emotional, mental, physical stress. you stack on, I mean, your own inner journey. And then that by nature is just going to fall over and spill into your relationship, especially the people you love the most. Right. And it's like, that's why it's even when we say, we love one another, love alone, it takes more than just loving one another, and communication, I think is very hard for something that's always in motion, and, emotional triggers, right? We talk about things from the past that immediately still, if one person says, excuse me,
Bless you.
says something that can trigger, instead of being reactive, how to reprogram yourself. I listen to Segura a lot. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but he does a lot of talking about the inner engineering of being able to reprogram yourself and your habits and your emotions and your inner world and your inner joy and inner peace, regardless of all external factors, all other people who they can't trigger, right? But it's something that, rest and peace is something that is an ongoing motion that you have to work on, but it has to come from within. It cannot be a source. I cannot depend on Jaime for my happiness. I can then not depend on him for my joy, for my peace, for my anything. He can be a supplement and an elevation of that, but it has to come from within.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I encourage that for you. And that's why we talk so much about, working on your inner self and healing your inner child and healing those emotions and managing emotions and utilizing strategies, whether it's meditation, gratitude practice, exercise, nutrition, energy healing, these retreats that we talk about, plant medicine that's out there for, long-term things, all sorts of energy healing. You hear Reiki, sound baths, yoga. I mean, there's a whole list of holistic healing, right? In addition to, what we all know is psychology or psychotherapy and medication from what we normally prescribe. But there's so many alternative routes that can help in the inner journey, because honestly, if you suffer with one relationship and you trigger and your emotions and you're reactive, and you're unhappy, it's going to be replaced with another person, same issue, different face, different person.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right? Because the root problem falls within yourself, right? And you attract, it is about manifestation and attraction, because until you're in a better place, that's the type of people you can also attract, right? And that's in all different aspects of your life, spiritually, physically, financially, everything, right? It's all energy based too.
So is there any other things that you like on a daily or weekly basis for passion, or that we do besides some of the things that we've mentioned? Is there anything else?
I think what we do well in is going from, instead of a daily, we go from a year in review. Like when we did the ITSE, we kind of plan at the end of the year for the following year, the big rocks, meaning what are the big rocks that we want to make sure we account for, whether those are times for celebrating our anniversary, celebrating our birthdays, time with our family, vacations, things that are a must for us. We plant those on the calendar first because those are what are priority for us, right? Mm-hmm. From a macro level. And then from a year basis, breaking it down to maybe a monthly basis. And you and I kind of coordinate calendars, right? How many of these days are we going to actually work? How many of the days are we traveling? And if we're traveling, what is worth traveling for, right? We can't say yes to everything. Mm-hmm. So being on the same page as a couple, both in business and personal and fun, like what are the things that we want to make sure we kind of get involved in, and who are the circle of people we want to be involved in during this stage of our journey, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. So that's on a macro and monthly level. We kind of link up calendars. And that falls on a weekly basis too. But on a more fun level, right? Simple things as like taking Athena to do certain things, whether it's we're going to go bowling this day, we're going to go out to eat together with days, we're going to visit your parents this day, we're going to go play games this day, we're going to do poker night with our friends this day. I mean, those are all things that are part of our life that also impacts our relationship because we plan those in conjunction together, right?
Mhm.
And then if you're like, well, if you want to do that, but I don't want to do that, well, where is there a little bit of a compromise? And are there compromises and sacrifices in relationship? Absolutely. You'll agree to go to things that you don't necessarily want to go to, but I thoroughly enjoy it, and vice versa, right?
Mhm.
And so, that's something that when we plan on a daily basis, I think having our own independent space, knowing that, you're doing your thing on working and improving yourself, I'm doing my things and improving myself. And it looks totally different, right? Not expecting you to do the things I'm doing because that works for me and vice versa, right? I think you've given up after 19 years that you cannot mold me in the way that you'd like. It just doesn't work, right? And so what works for me, right? And, I think decluttering is something that I just started that has really helped. I came back from my retreat that I was talking about in Colombia. And one of the facilitators said something that really struck a chord. He goes, Hua, you want to heal the world? You want to do all these macro big things. And I know your beautiful energy and I see it. And you need to work on your micro system, your inner self, and your micro family within. And so that's what I focused on since I've been home, was like, okay, instead of trying to figure out my big grand plan on what's next that I want to do to conquer the world, what do I need to do? And just baby steps to like get working at home on me. And number one thing I needed to do was declutter. And Jaime woke up and he's like, what the heck are you doing? I literally decluttered everything, right? I'm just starting with whatever space I can get to that I have left for God knows how long. But it's the big areas first, right? My bedroom, our bedroom, my space right next to my bed, my closet, just decluttering. And just decluttering the kitchen, decluttering the house, decluttering the bedroom, decluttering my own personal space has helped me declutter a lot of stuff in my head. Right.
Mhm.
And so what I remember my facilitator telling me is, start small in your inner space, inner circle. Do nothing, just focus on the micro right now. You cannot conquer the macro when you haven't conquered your micro. That really struck a chord. I'm like, you're right. You're right. I'm going to work on that.
Great advice, whoever that was.
Joey, thank you. And he goes, I know you want to do all these grand things, but work on the micro, work on the inner. I'm like, yes. I'm working on it. And it's little things. He goes, don't think too big. So I encourage you, if you're listening, don't just right now at this moment. If you can go clean your room, you can go clean out your closet, clean out your purse, declutter some of that stuff. It feels good. I'm like, oh my God, all these years, man. I let this all stack up, but it's just a bunch of mess. Like, I don't know, it's disorganized. But you know what? When you can organize and declutter, your life will start feeling better. You will start feeling better. I don't know about everybody else, but for me, it's helping me. It's baby steps. Like, I don't have to conquer all of it. I just know if I do one little section today and I turn on my meditation, I exercise for 30 minutes. I did little baby steps. Like, we're part of an accountability group for 100 days to just physically move. Simple things. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 100 push-ups. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 150 core exercises. Sunday, 20 minutes of yoga or stretching. I was like, that's easy. But that little thing, because what did it do? Immediately it said easy. I can do that, right? Because as soon as I think it's complicated or it's hard, my mind and body physically shuts out. I'm like, I'm not participating. I don't want anything to do with that. But 100 push-ups, 150 core, got a group to account one another. Once you do it, you post in there, okay, check mark, I did it. I was like, super easy. And of course, if I'm going to go do 100 push-ups or 150 core, I go and I lift weights and I do my other exercises and add it in, right? Because I'm already in the motion. I'm already in the mood, right? And I was like, yeah. So that's the key. Small increments that make it. If your mind says easy, you're more likely to do it. If you get overwhelmed and it's complicated, probably less likely to do it, right? And how does that help your relationship? Jaime's birthday just passed. And so for his birthday, I said, I gave you a spotless, clean house. Like I decluttered everything. And he's like, whoa, I've never seen the house look like that.
I am very organized.
And I'm not.
So whenever I look at your closet, it's like, oh my God, what happened there? No, and then, I mean, No, but I think you mentioned something very important. It's if you're exercising, that's your example, and it sounds easy, then you make it a habit, and then there's accountability. It's going to be pretty successful, if you just put that small little formula, right? So it's pretty easy, becomes a habit, and then that leads to success. And then that's what we can apply on just life itself, right? So just just eating better, having a sleeping routine, meditate. I mean, all these are easy things you can do, right?
Yeah, and even with
And-
each other, right?
Mhm.
Simple things with each other, like the massage,
Mhm.
like writing notes to each other or texting one another, just, I miss you. Or, if we're traveling, most of the time we travel together, but sometimes we don't travel together. But just a quick message, right? To say, I love you, or I'm thinking about you, or, there's some sort of communication or touch point, right? Whether
Mhm.
we're together physically or we're apart and we're different cities, we have that touch point, which is super important, right? Otherwise, in my mind, I'm like, well, he didn't even think about me,
Mhm.
right? And so I think those are simple, easy things, hugs, sharing wins and challenges throughout, at the end of the day, or even during a trip. What did we really enjoy,
Mhm.
right? What is the best foods? What's number 1, 2, and 3? Just sharing commonalities, right? What are things that gets you excited, right?
Mhm.
What kind of music do you like? We turn on music, and just having fun is a big part of keeping a relationship spicy,
Mhm.
right? Karaoke. I mean, we'll go karaoke, right? And we'll just sing and we'll do crazy, funny things together. Like it's, not being so serious all the time, right? And just being able to let our guards down and just have a good time and be silly. I mean, they make fun of me all the time. Like Athena and him are writing a book about the things that mommy does and says,
Silly.
silly things mommy does and says, right? Immediately when we're all laughing, and it's just like, those feel good hormones get released, right? We're
Mhm.
all in a better mood, and it lightens up the mood. And are you more productive in a relationship or at work when all of that is going on? Absolutely,
Mhm.
right? But are those simple, easy things to do? Yes. I mean, he watches fart videos just so he's laughing, right?
I do that at nighttime, so I can feel good at night, and so I can sleep better. So I'm
Amen.
just there laughing away with Athena. You know,
So it's silly things. We love watching comedy, just things that kind of like are lighthearted, right? Lighthearted things that are fun. The thing that I want to do next is that one of my fears is dancing, right? And so that is one of the things I would like to incorporate and improve on, because man, can you imagine if I built enough confidence to go dance out there and like, who cares, right?
I love to dance. And
So that's
she
going to
has
be
3
something I
left
would.
feet.
I mean, he can't. We're on this outside workout station, and I can barely move my hip. He's like, "What is going on? You're so rigid." Yeah. But it's okay. I know if I wanted to really improve on it, and I can hire someone, have an accountability partner, kind of teach me to move and dance better. I mean, I know I can improve even more, right? But now I at least do it with Athena, and we're silly and we'll dance and turn on some music, even if I have no rhythm. It's okay. I'm having a fun time. And that's what's important, is doing it and having fun while you're doing it. Right. And who cares what people think, right?
That's right.
So
Let's wrap it up.
let's wrap it up. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Keep things alive and spicy, because, if you can keep your relationship and truly build healthy, meaningful, deep relationships with one another, it's just elevating on a journey together that's going to be so much more fun, right? And if you have kids involved, I mean, being the role model, if they can just see 2 parents who are deeply in love for a good mission and serving, I mean, imagine that's the best thing you can teach your children, is being a role model for them and leading the way and teaching them what a healthy, deep, passionate relationship looks like.
And it's not easy. You
It's
got to
not.
know that going into a relationship, it doesn't flow to you, right? So you really have to work at this relationship and make a lot of habits and hold each other accountable, keep your word, just think of spicy things to do, and maybe start off by calling each other a lover just one time. Let's see what happens. And then you can report back by texting us, or if you want any other advice on the lover part or anything else that we talked about, please let us know. We're here Mondays at 11 Central Standard Time. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.